The class project that turned me the most popular girl. I never thought I'd be the type of girl who would stand out. At school, I was the quiet one, always in the background, always unnoticed. I could count the number of friends I had on one hand. It wasn't because I didn't want to fit in, but rather, I couldn't quite seem to find the right balance. The world around me felt loud, vibrant, and full of energy, while I often felt like I was stuck on the sidelines, unsure of how to step into the scene. Most days, I trudged through the halls of St. Mary's High School, my worn-out sneakers barely making a sound against the linoleum floors. I had my little group of friends, but even then, I often felt out of place. I was the wallflower, the girl with her head buried in books, who never quite had the right outfit or the perfect answer when people asked about their weekend plans. I was always the last to get picked for teams, the last to be included in group activities, and the first to be overlooked when it came to social events. I often found myself retreating to the corners, longing for something more, something different. At home, it was the same story. My family was loving, yes, but they were busy. My older brother, who was a natural athlete, was always off with his friends. My little sister was a cheerleader, constantly surrounded by a whirlwind of social activity. Then there was me, quiet, introspective, unsure of how to fit into the ever-growing puzzle of their lives. Sometimes, I wondered if I'd ever find the courage to truly shine. But there was one thing I had that no one seemed to notice: a passion for creativity. I loved drawing, painting, and expressing myself through the quiet act of making something. I wasn't much of a talker, but when I sat down with a sketchbook or a canvas, the world seemed to make sense. It was a place where I could be myself, where I could create without judgment. Yet even there, I lacked the confidence to show anyone what I could do. My art, just like me, was kept hidden away. All of that changed the day Mr. Matthews, our enthusiastic art teacher, announced our final class project for the semester. It started as just another class assignment, nothing special. Mr. Matthews explained that each student would be paired up and tasked with creating a collaborative art piece that expressed their personalities. He emphasized that it wasn't just about the final product, but the process of working with someone else and discovering how to blend different creative styles. It was supposed to be a way to foster teamwork, communication, and, if we were lucky, some degree of mutual respect. I dreaded the idea. I wasn't great at collaborating, and the thought of working with someone else felt like a recipe for disaster. I barely spoke to anyone in class, let alone trusted them with something as personal as my art. The idea of blending my own work with another's sounded like a nightmare. But what I didn't expect was the way Mr. Matthews announced the pairs. Randomly. He picked names out of a hat, and that was it. When I heard my name called, I barely caught the next name on the list. It wasn't until I saw him walk toward me that I realized who my partner was. "Sarah," he said, a wide grin on his face. "You'll be working with Tristan." Tristan? The name echoed in my head. Tristan King was everything I wasn't. Tall, athletic, and popular, he had a reputation that stretched far beyond the confines of our school. He was the kind of guy everyone noticed, whether he wanted them to or not. His laugh was loud, his presence commanding. Girls flocked around him, and boys wanted to be him. He was the definition of high school royalty. And there I was, the invisible girl, paired with the most popular guy in school. As Tristan slid into the seat next to me, I could feel my face flush. My hands suddenly became clammy. He looked at me with a casual smile, as if we were long-lost friends. "So," he said, raising an eyebrow, "what do you think of this whole art thing? I'm not exactly a Picasso or whatever, but I'll try my best." His tone was light, teasing. I nodded, though I couldn't find my voice. This was the moment. This was where things could go right or completely wrong. Over the next few days, the reality of the project set in. It wasn't just about completing an assignment. It was about spending time with Tristan. The more I learned about him, the more I realized how different we were. He was outgoing, charismatic, and had a way of making everyone feel like they were the most important person in the room. In contrast, I shrank into the background, unsure of how to speak up or share my ideas. We met after school in the art room to start brainstorming. Tristan, ever the extrovert, immediately took charge, suggesting ideas that seemed more about impressing the class than actually creating something meaningful. I wanted to suggest something more personal, something true to both of our creative visions, but I was afraid of stepping on his toes. What if we make it flashy? Tristan suggested one afternoon, flipping through a sketchbook of graffiti artists. You know, something that'll wow everyone when they see it. Bright colors, sharp lines, explosions of energy. I stared at the sketches, feeling unsure. His idea was bold, loud, everything I was not. But there was something in his eyes that made me think maybe he could be right. Maybe this was my chance to do something outside of my comfort zone, to prove to myself that I wasn't just the quiet girl in the back of the room. What if we combined that with something more subtle? I suggested hesitantly. Something with softer colors and more intricate details. We could create a contrast. Tristan paused and then nodded. I like that idea. Let's do both. Start with my bold idea and add yours in the background, like a hidden layer. It was a perfect compromise. We spent the next few weeks experimenting, blending our styles in ways neither of us had anticipated. It wasn't easy. I had my doubts, and there were moments when Tristan's bold choices clashed with my more delicate designs. But we kept pushing through, learning from each other. And somewhere along the way, something changed. I started to believe in myself. The more I worked on the piece, the more I realized that my ideas, my vision, were valuable. And slowly, Tristan started to see that too. He was no longer just the loud guy, and I wasn't just the quiet girl. We were two artists, working together to create something beautiful. As we got closer to finishing the project, the pressure started to mount. The final presentation was just around the corner, and I was feeling the weight of expectations, both my own and others. Everyone was watching us now. Tristan, with his undeniable popularity, was used to being in the spotlight. But me? I wasn't sure I was ready for the attention. At one point, as we worked late into the night, Tristan turned to me with a nervous expression. "Sarah, what if they don't like it?" he asked, his voice uncharacteristically quiet. "What if we fail?" I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the question. It wasn't just about the project anymore, it was about who we were becoming in the process. For the first time, I realized that this project was about more than art. It was about us as people, about how far we had come from the people we were when we first started. "I think it's good," I said softly. "I think it's us." But even as I said it, a part of me was unsure. Would they see it? Would anyone understand the effort we had put in, the personal growth that had come with every stroke of the brush? The day of the presentation arrived faster than I could have imagined. I felt sick to my stomach, my palms sweaty as we walked into the classroom with our piece. I could hear whispers and glances from the other students, the usual gossip that came with any big event. Everyone was curious about how we would perform, given the disparity between Tristan's popularity and my, well, lack of it. When it was our turn to present, Tristan stood up confidently, his usual charm back in full force. He spoke passionately about our work, about the fusion of boldness and subtlety. But as he spoke, I realized that the most important part wasn't his words. It was the way we had worked together, the way we had found harmony despite our differences. When the class saw the final piece, their reaction was immediate. It wasn't just the boldness of the colors that drew them in, it was the delicate balance between our styles. They saw the struggle, the collaboration, and the beauty of two completely different worlds coming together. For the first time in my life, I felt seen. The days that followed the presentation were a whirlwind. The project had been a success, but more than that, something had shifted. People who had once ignored me began to notice. Suddenly, I was invited to sit with different groups at lunch, included in conversations I had never been a part of. I wasn't just Sarah anymore. I was someone who had something to offer, something worth acknowledging. Tristan's presence helped too. It wasn't just his popularity that drew people in. It was the fact that he had become someone who respected me. Our project had brought us closer, and that respect radiated through everything we did. And in those moments, I realized something important. Popularity, confidence, and self-worth didn't come from being someone else. They came from embracing who you truly were. The final test came when I was asked to give a speech at the school assembly about our project. It was one thing to be noticed in class, to be recognized in small ways. But speaking in front of everyone? That was terrifying. As I stood at the podium, looking out at the sea of faces, I almost turned back. But then I remembered everything I had gone through to get to this moment. The hours of work, the vulnerability I had shared with Tristan, the way I had started to believe in myself. I spoke from the heart, sharing what the project had meant to me. I talked about the importance of collaboration, of stepping outside your comfort zone, and of finding your own voice. And as I spoke, I saw people listening, not because I was the loudest or the most popular, but because I was being real. By the time graduation came, I had become someone I never thought I could be: confident, proud of my work, and surrounded by friends. The quiet girl who once sat alone in the back of the room was gone, replaced by a young woman who knew her worth. Tristan and I remained friends, and our project had forged a bond that went beyond the classroom. I learned that sometimes the biggest transformations don't happen in the mirror, they happen in the heart. It's easy to think that you need to fit into someone else's mold to be accepted. But true confidence comes from within, from embracing your own unique qualities and stepping into the world as yourself. The journey to self-discovery is never easy, but it's always worth it.